Now, do you recall what the number of processes we have in project? Anyone here can recall them? At the beginning of the course, we said in order to optimize the way we do projects, we need some processes. And what were these processes? You remember them? Yes? Anyone can tell me the processes? First process is initiation, right? And initiation is about creating alignment, understanding objectives, understanding success criteria, preparing the ground to deliver these success criteria, understanding your stakeholders, their needs and their expectations. This is initiation phase. Just a lot of talk in that phase. And then comes the planning. And obviously, the purpose of this planning here is to create project plans. Complete project plans. How we are going to handle the scope. How are we going to produce the scope? How are we going to handle time, handle the estimates, handle the communication, handle the risks, handle the contracts. There we draw these plans, we stress, we define all these details through project planning. And this project planning takes usually quite long time if we are going to do it in proper way. One of the most important tools in this project planning activity is this thing, the scope planning actually. Or we sometimes use the term WBS. WBS stands for Work Breakdown Structure, which means that our objective here is to split, is to segregate the entire project, the goal of our project, the deliverable, the main deliverable of our project into small work packages that I can control, that I can measure, that I can assign, that I can facilitate. And we use actually this work breakdown structure to build plans for time. How long time each one of these work packages will require. We use this work breakdown structure even to create a risk breakdown structure. For each work package, we define risks associated with each one of them, and so on. So this work breakdown structure actually is a very, very fundamental in our approach to project management. This approach we are learning here in this course, the waterfall approach to project management. So this is the objective of this lecture. Will actually be focused on this WBS. So first, of course, we will look into what, when we say a project plan, what does that mean? What this plan is consisting of. And then we will show how we break down the project or project objectives or project deliverables into work packages. We will see how this process is conducted. There are two ways to do this. It's either top-down or bottom-up, actually. And we will also look into the benefits. Why the idea of having work breakdown structure is useful. So these are the learning objectives of this lecture. And again, I recall Pinto, he says that you have a conceptualization phase or initiation phase, and then the planning phase, and then the execution phase. Pinto said that you have this conceptualization phase, and you have the planning phase, and then the execution phase, and the termination phase. And the output of this planning phase is these plans that we need to produce. And as I told you, there are a lot of plans we need to produce for the project. First and most of all is the first one. It's sadly is not shown very well. but it describes how. How are we going to break the objective, the main objective, into manageable work packages. And then we describe who will be doing what. Of course, you manage to create these small work packages. Like just for instance, in this room, okay, our task is here is to redecorate this room. So one work package could be the floor work. That's a work package. Another work package could be the furniture. A third work package could be the lighting system. Fourth work package could be this telecommunication equipment. Other work package is the connection between what we have produced here and other systems. Yeah. And then the next level is, of course, is to define who will be doing what in each of these work packages. And then we need to see what will be the duration of each work package, how long it will take, and not the least, the link between these different work packages. And then we will have to define how much material we need. Maybe we are not able to produce these work packages by ourselves. Some of these work packages will be outsourced to somebody else because they have the experience and they can take the risk of producing these work packages, and so on. And then we will look into quality. In order to produce this work package, what quality standard we have to adhere to? What should be the process, the quality about the process of this production? And then we can look into communication. In any type of projects, you already have realized that communication is a key word. I have to communicate the objectives, the goals of the projects for each one of you, for my project, and then you have to communicate back your understanding of what these tasks are all about and what is my real expectation. So we should also have a communication plan which defines when and by whom and how and the medium of this communication, how I will communicate things to you. For instance, in many cases, people think that email is an excellent communication tool. That's rubbish. You know why? Because an email is only communicated if the other party opened their email. So there is no guarantee that the other party have read your email, and there is no guarantee either that the other party have understood what you have written in your email. So email is no good way of communicating. There are other better ways. But as you can see, we would like to go from project objectives to good plans, right? That will really frame the basis for our work. And then somebody might ask, okay, Bassam, you keep saying we need to have a good plan. We need to have a good plan, right? That's important. But what really is a good plan? So what are, of course, a good plan, one of the things that it must have, that it must contain all of the above. So the content of the plan, yes, it must describe time, it must describe the scope, it must describe the communication. But when we describe that, when we express these things, what are the important features that the plan must have so the project can do a good, or so that the project manager can do good project management, deliver the efficiency criteria that we've been talking about from lecture now. So what do you think, guys? Now, I really want you to think about your project assignments that you have been involved. You know, you do a lot of projects, right? Maybe work-wise or in your studies. When you are making plans for your assignments, what are the important things that you always think about when you make these plans? Especially if you are working in groups. So any input from you? Good characteristics, yeah.
Who does what? Right, responsibility. Responsibility, who does what?
You want to say maybe that everybody should know what is their responsibility, what is their task? Yeah, I would say maybe this young lady want to say the clarity. That the plan should be very, very clear. Who will be doing what, right? Very clear. We know that we'll have to describe that, but this clarity, we should not leave any room for creating assumptions. I take my assignment, I know exactly what I will be doing, and I know exactly how I will be judged, right? And I know exactly how you will be doing your things and how you will be judged. Clarity. It's easy to be understood. And one way of doing that, of course, is using what we refer to visual aids. Rather than writing things or just writing, so we can use visual aids that will enhance our ability to communicate this responsibility. Very good. So clarity, understanding, and other things.
Must be actually possible to do the plan?
Very, very good. You must have a plan that is achievable or realistic. And this is one of the things that we always make mistakes, by the way. And you know why? Because of a bias called optimism bias. When you take an assignment for the first time, you start thinking, yes, I can do it. Yes, I have the energy to do that, right? Because now you are excited, you want to do things. But of course, after some times, when you also get other responsibilities, maybe when you discover that you are not competent enough to do that particular task, then your productivity curve goes down. So yes, good plan should be based on actual understanding of your capabilities and not based on hope or wishful thinking. Very good, achievable, realistic. And in project management, actually, we do that through good risk management. We make the plan, and then we check that particular point, availability of resources, competency of these resources, what we need so that these resources do their work, and then we make mitigations, right? We make measures so that we try to achieve these good measures that we have outlined. So yes, very good point. Achievable. What else?
Be flexible and dynamic.
Excellent. You can't have a plan that is a rigid plan. That's never happened before. We always should take into account that things change on the way. They change because I might give this young lady an assignment and she didn't do very well. And then we have to do the rework again. And this rework requires more time, right? Requires more resources. But what if your budget doesn't allow that? Or what if you don't have enough time? Then you will have a serious trouble. So yes, you must have a flexible plan. And we have flexible plan through many measures, like additional reserve, additional resources, backup plan. If something happens, we can use the other plan. So again, risk management here plays a crucial role in creating good plans. What do you think? There are several other things. He said flexible, but somebody else want also, when you are making a plan, you want your plan to deliver, right? You want your plan to be certain at the same time. It's flexible, but I want it to be certain. When I want to make a plan to drive from here to Oslo within a specific date to meet someone, for instance, so I want to make sure that I will do that. Otherwise, the planning is worthless if it cannot deliver the goal of the project. So, certain. You need to make plans that really provide us with our goal. And yet again here, risk management. Managing risks. Managing your resources, having good estimates plays very important role here in order to make a certain plan. So estimation techniques, risk management techniques, and creating a good time plan perhaps, or a cost plan is very important. Very well. There is one criteria actually you have maybe missed it, and it's also important, which is about measurability. Usually plans for big projects are huge. Like after the first Gulf War in 1991, after the invasion of Kuwait in 1991, and the Kuwaiti government, they want to reconstruct their oil fields. So they started a huge project, the reconstruction of oil fields. You know what was the scope of the drawings part, how the amount of work they have produced in order just to produce drawings, not the actual work, but to produce drawings and design. You know what was the actual amount of hours were used? Do you have any idea? Anybody, can you give me a number? 55 million man hours. Imagine you want to do a 55 million man hours. That's a huge amount of work. Then if you have this amount of work, you can't control it. It's too huge. So what we do, we split it. We make it small, tiny, cute little work packages, right? When each work package can be controlled. So they divided their projects into several work packages, and then they break down each work packages to something like a few hundred man hours. A certain street, a certain block, a certain building, a certain highway. That is, they know when they finish it, they can say that we have finished that particular thing. So creating good plans requires like many characteristics. Explicit, that young lady talked about it. And it should be easy to communicate. It should be certain. It should be controllable or measurable. It should be flexible. It should be realistic. And maybe in some situation it should be something else. Right? So, if you want to succeed as a project planner, you need to have these keywords in your mind. Again, what we mean by easy to communicate? We need to have visual tools to communicate our plan. There are a lot of visual tools. WBS, network, manpower chart, Gantt chart, S-curve, risk register, risk matrix. These are tools you will learn in this course so that you can communicate your plan and make it understood to the others. You said they are flexible. Yes. We have to take into account deviations, mistakes, other conditions. As a result, we must have an alternative plan. In the building and construction industry, they have something called reduction lists. Let's say this building here. Well, this building or this facility here will cost 1 million. And maybe during the work, we discovered that, whoa, this was very optimistic estimate. We need to cut. So if we have this reduction list, we can just go to this reduction list and say, cut this, cut this, cut this, cut that. So that we adhere to this cost estimate that we have created up front. And this, you see, it makes conflicts less obvious. You reduce the amount of conflicts in the project if the project agrees up front on how to deal with flexibility. Explicit, clear, no assumptions. I get my task, I know what I'm supposed to do. That lady here talked about realistic. Always a problem with reality, with this over-optimism. Manageable. Like you must have you build it on measurable results. You divide your work in such a way that when you finish one division, so you will be able to say with a confidence level of 100% that I have finished it. You are not in doubt about that dilemma. And the last one, it should be certain. We use risk management processes. We want to make sure that the objectives will be achieved. So here, experience also play a good role here. Yes, you do risk management, but also competence and experience, and these soft skills play an important role. Now, one of the things that provide us, or one of the tools that provide us with this ability to create this measurable, controllable, optimistic, verified, clear, is this way to break down. It is a visual aid where you break the project into small pieces, and that's it actually. What is the point here? When you break down, you will see now from the examples we will put forward to you that there are two key words always you follow. Number one is the deliverables, what you deliver, because you have to do things. But we always want to make sure that our plan is certain, flexible, easy to be understood, and so on. Therefore, we introduce risk measures, and include them in the plan so that we can respond to these requirements. So you deliver something, you have to do that, and then you add your risk management measures to live up to this requirement of having a flexible plan. And then comes this work breakdown structure. As you can see, it's really a graphical aid. Nothing more than that. You have your project at the top of the line here, and with code as one. And you have another one, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. They refer to, this is the second level, they refer to major deliverables. For instance, if we are going to introduce a new IT system to our department, to our university, this IT system is the major project. And then we introduce, right, what we will introduce next? We will say, okay, this IT system consists of software package, right, and maybe a hardware package, and maybe an integration package, put things together. So that first level is called the deliverables, major deliverables. And then we ask, okay, the first deliverable or major deliverable is 1.2. This is a software that we have to introduce. Well, this software actually, if we break it down, it consists of modules, or applications, or functions. So in this case, I break it down into 3 sub-deliverables, because that's a natural way of thinking. Each one of these sub-deliverables can be produced independently of the other one, or acquired independently of the other one. And then we say, okay, let's look at this 1.23. This is like sub-deliverable number 3. How can we produce it? Well, maybe I need two work packages. Number one is to do a good requirements management, find out what are the requirements of this one, and then the second step is to select from from the commercial market, right, one suitable application that will fit my purpose in 1.23. So here, the last level is this level, which we call a work package level. It's a small that I can assign to one single person. And this single person can do the job as if it is an independent project. Like when you say, you guys, your task is to go around and check out what are the requirements. That itself is a small project. And the result, you can see, the result is very clear. It's a document which says specifications, requirement specifications. And that's it. So this is the mentality of this work breakdown structure. Break into manageable components, small components. And the number of levels is not really very, we don't have like a standard. You have to break down into 4 levels, or 5 levels, or 6 levels. No. The most important that we break down to the last level, and that last level should be easy to understand, easy to allocate, easy to measure, and understood by the others. Now back to our way to break down the structure. So this is the graphical representation of the structure. And actually, if you look into software package like MS Project, you will see that they are basing the entire software on the work breakdown structure. As you can see here, they say they have an IT installation project, and this consists of 3 major deliverables. The first deliverable is match IT to organizational tasks. Of course, we want to make sure that this IT procurement will contribute to organizational development and not just using money on worthless things. And then we identify the requirements, and then we prepare a formal proposal. And under this one, for instance, you see you develop cost-benefit information. This task can be given to one person to do this job, to deliver it in a short period of time. So actually, this is the mentality of, or the approach, or the process of creating a work breakdown structure. It's a step-by-step approach. What are the defining characteristics of this work breakdown structure? Pinto lists these features. He says that it is the lowest level. It is true. Nothing comes after a work package. What comes after a work package is usually called tasks or jobs. But we in project management do not interfere in that. We give this job to the people who will do the work. For instance, if having a floor, put a new floor here, is a work package, we never go and tell the carpenters how they should do their work. Or if they should start from this side and end at this side, or should start from the other side, and so on. It is their specialty, it's their expertise, they should be allowed to do it themselves. And as always, it has a deliverable result. This result could be a physical component, like a floor, or it could be a document, analysis of something. You analyze something, and you came out with these results. Or maybe you tested something, and the results are the test results of what you did. Sometimes, you know, that result is just a decision. In many situations,
Will we be using Microsoft Project in this course?
No. Microsoft Project is a commercial product. I cannot teach in commercial products. It's ethically not right.
But will we be using it?
No. I can't. You will, if you want to use it, you are welcome. It's for free, I think. It's for free. But I can't teach or use a commercial software. It's highly unethical thing to do. And it should have a one owner, right? One owner in the sense that one person or one department should do the work. It can be seen as a miniature project, small project actually. And it could consist of several milestones or 2 milestones or 1 milestone. It's possible, but very much unlikely. Because usually we want a web package to be small in duration so that we can exercise control over it. If it contains several milestones, then we might lose this controllability or measurability criteria. And it should fit the organization. It fits our organization in the sense that I can take this web package and I can go to one department and I say to the manager of that department, if we are working on a matrix structure, this is your work. Your department, your section will be responsible for making this web package. That is, the cost account of this web package belongs to your department. So it should also fit how the organization works. And at the end is trackable. All the time I should be able to go and measure performance. Again, trackable means that it must have a duration, it must have a scope, it must have a description that I can all the time go and check. Levels, as I told you, when it comes to the levels, we don't have a standard solution for that. It could be of any level. Some companies, like Aker Solutions here, and by the way, Aker Solutions is a company that takes in a lot of students who are doing master in project management. Almost every student who completed master in project management here at Anti-ANU ended up in Aker Solutions. So they really like our university, so to speak. So that company, for instance, when they are making their work breakdown structure, it consists of 9 levels. Other companies like Statoil, they have only 7 levels. Other, like the defense forces in Norway, they only have 5. Why do you think they have different levels of the work breakdown structure? Obviously, it has to do with the complexity of the work. Aker Solution is an entrepreneur company. They are the one who do the work. And in order to do the work and control the work really, really well, you need to have several levels. So that the details, these features that we talk about is taken care of. But the defense forces in Norway, they don't do any projects actually. Or they don't produce anything. They just say, we need this, and the government give them a lot of money and they buy that thing. So mostly what they do is to specify the requirements and to make this testing and verification work. But they don't produce anything themselves. They don't have to break down the work. That's why we have different levels. So what are the benefits now? If I try to summarize, why it's good to have this work breakdown structure, thinking about these criteria of a good plan. Number 1, as you can see, it's a tool to visualize your project. If you have a project, think about it with some visual aids. You can draw your project. You can show logical relationships between all your tasks, right? All your sub-deliverables and all of your main deliverables. It's an effective communication tool. And number 2 is it's also a tool to understand your project as early as possible. One of the key features when we are working with WBS that we never finish this WBS on one go. Like, it is an iterative process. It is something growing up as we work on it. So usually we start with one draft and then we look at this draft. Did we understand? Is there anything missing? Do we need to add anything? Is everything in place? And then we add or subtract or reduce and so on. Then this gives us this ability to understand and do a good piece of work. And consequently, this will reduce the probability of changes. Changes, sometimes they are not good because they disturb the performance of your project. We don't like that. So we want to reduce them as much as possible. We want to make our plan certain. You remember? And sometimes it's a tool to define the weakest link. Imagine, you have got an assignment from your university professor that you will have to investigate some issue. And you draw your work breakdown structure and you divided the work between the people who will do this work. And in one of these tasks, you discover that it requires a certain type of equipment that you don't have, that must be acquired, that must be bought, that must be produced. So in a way, you can say, aha, this assignment can or constitute a hazard to our project. This is our weakest link, because we have everything in place except that particular thing. So you see, by studying what is needed in order to produce each simple component, you will be able to identify your weakest link. Where are your problems, difficulties that you have to address? You see, again, we are trying to create something which is certain. And in many cases, we would like to understand what is the difference between the work we are going to do in the project organization and the work that an external contractor or external entrepreneur will be doing. So it's a method for differentiating, again, visuality. A tool to reduce the complexity. I told you, one of the most important things you should think about when you are making your plan is the manageability or controllability or measurability. You can, if you have a task of 55 million hours, you can't manage that all at once. You must be a super duper computer in order to be able to do that. So what we need to do is to break it down in order to achieve the manageability or measurability criteria. And another important thing to eliminate misunderstandings between people. I ended up with a work breakdown structure and I say, you are the man. You are responsible, or your department is responsible for this particular task. Which means that here I can also link the organization to the tasks. I create also alignment inside the organization. And this is an example of how we do it. You see, this is up from their IT installation. As you can see, prepare proposal, seek and hire consultant, seek support for IT. And then, these are the major deliverables. And then here, I start with work packages. Search committee, develop criteria, we need somebody to find out things. Develop criteria and select consultant. Small tasks that can be done. Now, our department has the following functions. We have information system, human resources, and we have procurement. These are how we organize, how our organization is structured. And then we say, okay, this search committee, this is a cross-functional task. Pardon me, information systems will be responsible for this and this and this, which means that they will be involved in all these three work packages. They will contribute. They fit this department. While procurement will be located just or will be used to develop this criteria, only develop criteria work package. So you use your work packages up front there and your department, and you allocate responsibilities. Who will be doing it? Which means that this department, procurement, will have a cost account for this function because somebody will have to do the job. So they will have to keep the books. And human resources will be doing these two tasks. Then they will have to keep the books for these two tasks. So as you can see, now we create an intersection between the work breakdown structure and the organizational configuration with this cost account model. Other benefits which are very good, it's a tool for learning, especially for you guys when you start working on projects. You will probably, some of you will be working on information systems, some of you in electrical engineering, some of you in industrial applications, right? And the first project you will be working on will be a good opportunity to learn how we really, what is really needed to do that particular project. You can also use it to compare the project you have developed with previous projects to see similarities and dissimilarities. Tool for reducing the perception gap, creating a common understanding. We talked about several times. Again, this can be a tool to commit other stakeholders to their task. From the previous lecture about organization, one of the things that could happen that these people or these head of departments, right, shows resistance, right, or do not understand really what is required from that. But if you produce something like that up front and you involve them in where the cost account will be located, this is also a tool for creating this commitment. And this commitment, you can detail it through this responsibility assignment matrix. And this is, you will see it in Pinto figure 511. Again, as you can see, you have your deliverables here, or if you want your work packages, and these are tasks, codes, and this what Pub will do, what David will do, what Susan will do, what Beth will do, what James will do, what Terry will do. Each one has a role. For instance, Bob, for the first deliverable, will be the responsible one. But for the second one, he will provide support. For the third one, he will approve the work. And for the fourth one, he will be responsible. So each person who is involved in your project, you tell them exactly what are you expecting from them. So these are the roles in the project. Somebody is responsible, somebody provides support, somebody provides approval, somebody has to be notified. And this is your matrix for assignment matrix. Sometimes, especially if you are young and about to begin your career as a project manager, one good thing that can help you to create credibility is actually by using this kind of tools. Imagine you are invited to your client, right, to present the work that you will be responsible for. You can go there just talking, not using any visual tools, not using any other tools, and compare that with the fact that you go there prepared with visual tools to explain how these tasks are linked to each other, how the assignments will be distributed, who will be doing what, how you have investigated risks, in your work breakdown, this creates credibility. You show your client that you really know what you are doing. And this creates respect. The client, you will feel that you have authority. That's very, very important. Create trust. And when trust is created, you know, you will feel less resistance to everything because they trust you. So everything becomes easier if you can create this trust. And for a new project manager, credibility is a key word to create this trust. You can also use it to explain to your client why the costs are so much. I visited a company here in Trondheim, and this company, they are producing huge electrical machines. And they have a very nice, very smart way of justifying the costs. They take with them, when they go to negotiation with the client, they take with them the work breakdown structure. And they say, okay, in order to deliver this machine, we need, or we require you to pay us, let's say, 10 million kroner. It's a huge electrical machines. Oh, the client, too much money. We should discount. We want to pay 8 million, for example. Say, okay, here is the work breakdown instruction. Let us go through this one by one. Look, this is the rotor, you know, the thing that rotates with the magnets around it. This is the rotor. We import the steel for this rotor from Germany. But we can import it from India, half price. The difference is half price. German steel or Indian steel. Everybody wants German steel. Right? So, no, we will keep the German steel, of course. Okay, then cross on that. The second one, you see, we have here 6 tests that we will conduct for you. We really don't need to do these tests. We know what we are doing, we are confident. These tests, we do them in order to adhere to your governing documents. Each test costs 100,000 kroner. We can drop them and you save 600,000 kroner. Oh no, we can't. We have to adhere to our governing documents. We have to prove that we done these tests. And you know, petroleum industry, they are very strict about regulations. The least fine a company in the oil industry gets is like 50 million kroner. And in no time, they can get this put. So at the end of the day, the client say, okay, 10 million kroner, we are happy with that. And they actually feel happy that the cost was only 10 million kroner. So this is a tool to justify your cost, to make sure that your client understood what will be done, right? And to make sure that the client understood if you do that, you will gain your objective. How you break up, we really don't have a rule for that. You break up any way you want. The only thing that matters is the last piece of work. Your work you break down, your work. You can break based on physical deliverables. You can break based on phases of the project or contracts. You have initial work, pilot work, main project, and so on. Sometimes you break based on geographic locations. Maybe engineering is done here in Norway, fabrication is done in India, assembly is done in China, right? Testing is done in Germany. That could be also a way to divide your work or describe your work, or combinations of the above. Now, the process, how we do that. Well, let me say just very brief. There are 2 ways of doing this. Either the top-down approach or the bottom-up approach. What happens in the top-down approach? In the top-down approach, we say, we have a problem. We are going to make a huge, let's say, electrical motor. And this is something we have done so many times that we really know what we are supposed to do. The only difference is the new requirements. regarding the load, regarding the working environment, regarding the power, the input, whatever, right? That's the new thing that we know. But we know how to make electrical motors, industrial electrical motors. Then we use this approach, the top down. When you know, anyone who did that, well, you have to, a motor consists of these components, we need to do management, we need to do this, bang, 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 until the last level. And then you review and check, look at your differences, compare it with other projects, compare it with previous projects, right? You have done, compare it with the best practices, and bang. That's the easy one. Sometimes, if I asked you, you have no idea how a motor is built, right? You know that it consists of maybe this and that, but you have no idea how it is built. Then we go for this bottom-up approach. Then we say, okay, let's bring in everybody who has built a motor before. And we bring up any discipline, any specialization, bring them up. And then we start asking, we want to deliver 1.2 megawatts, right? Or megawatt or 1.2 mega horsepower electrical motor. What shall we do? They start telling you, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to check that, you need to call Germany, you need to call the Noshka Veritas, you know. And then all what they say, we write it down. We use this post-it approach. Everything. We have a huge wall like this and we put all what they say. And then these experts, we tell them, can you aggregate them? Can you put everything that's on the wall into a bigger web packages? Then can you organize them in such a way that we can define, for instance, sub-deliverables, major deliverables, and yes, these people know what they are doing, so they do it for us, aggregate upwards. And then we check the process one more time, and we check it one more time, until we define what is our work breakdown structure. Of course, the uncertainty here is higher. And that's why we need to repeat this process several times to reduce this kind of uncertainty. And finally, I will show you an example of how a good work breakdown structure should look like. Here, this is like a soft project, so that everybody can understand. And actually, if you are doing your master assignment or project assignment, you can use that, because it's the same way of thinking. Look upward. You have a process improvement. You want, or you got a project, or you got an assignment that you were asked to improve an existing industrial process or organizational process. So, how we do that? Best practice tells us, in order to do that, you need first to find out what you need to do. That's we call major delivery, research and recommendation. We must come with a set of recommendations to the organization. And then we have to implement these recommendations, right? Very logical. And then finally, we have to evaluate these recommendations. As you can see, at the highest level, we follow the phase gate. Do the research, make recommendations, implement recommendations, and then evaluate. You can't really implement before you are finished with the developing the recommendation. So you see, the first level is phase-based. But then somebody asks, what does it mean to do search and recommendation? What we need to do that? We'll tell you, yeah. Usually you have to go and search the current literature or what other companies are using, or what other organizations are using, and how. Here comes the web package level. You see, you can do the three of them at the same time. You can. You don't have to wait for this to do that. So you can do the three of them at the same time. They are totally autonomous. They are independent of each other. And they are necessary to produce the first one. So if you aggregate them, you will get the state of the art and only the state of the art. And you see, you can allocate the responsibility of each web package to one person or to one department and relax. And the same thing with now situation. We define the state of the art outside, and then we must understand how we are doing the work. You define, you interview people, you send a survey. By the way, it should have been here, survey, not study. My mistake. You send survey to the people who are working there, find out how they experience the current process. And here, maybe you want to do some statistics analysis, find out the correlations between different factors in the now situation. And then you do gap analysis, and then you do brainstorming in order to find out the recommendations. And then you go to the implementation. Implementation phase means that you have to, the new process that you have come up with, you must make documentation, you must describe it. And then maybe one would say, maybe I should also provide training so that people can really understand the new process. So you see here, one of the things I try all the time to explain to you, this training actually is a risk management measure. We don't really need it if we know that everybody in this organization is capable to understand the new process, right? So this phase is not really important. But we have to do it to make sure that the process, the new process, will be understood and adhered to. And of course, you might have also other work packages, if necessary. And evaluation, of course, we need always to make sure that the process, the new process, created value. And under this evaluation, you might want to see what's the difference between the performance during the old process and the performance during the new process. So here maybe it consists actually of two web packages, before and after. So again, it's a logical structure that reflects how we should do the work, taking into consideration the different weak links, the different risks, the availability of resources, and so on. The most common pitfalls in projects that, for instance, the work breakdown structure continue to change. That's a very, we know that many projects, they never freeze the design. And that leads to many changes. The best example is this Bradley fighting vehicle. I put a link on the website that show you what happened in that project. It started with like, the cost estimate was $150 million. It ended up with $17 billion. The duration was 2 years. It ended up with 14 years. So it's a typical example of what happens when you don't freeze your design. Sometimes you have a very, very detailed work breakdown structure. That's no good. That's kill creativity. It's very difficult to control. And then you have too little details. Higher level, that's very uncertain. You can't deliver within the constraints of time and money. Or sometimes project managers make the work breakdown structure and then they hide it. They put it in a drawer and never show it to anybody. You see, we have a rule. It says it's called the 100% rule. This rule says whatever is in the work breakdown structure is your project. Everything else is outside your project. So if you really want people to adhere to this scope and avoid scope creep, then they must really know exactly what is the scope of work.